Okay. Hey, Tami Jean, do you see that little thing that says that we're live on the screen?
We are
Okay.
live, yes.
We are live. Good morning, everybody. It's Suki Jeffries. It is 9 o'clock where I am in Seattle today. And welcome to Defying Expectations. This is the show where we talk about how people are changing the world by defying expectations that they may have had of themselves or that society or people in their life had of them. So, um, I will be introducing my friend Tami Jean today. She is a self-love coach, and I just love that. Um, so she took kind of an unconventional route to healing herself, and now she's changing the world by healing others. Do you want to add a little bit to that intro, Tami, and tell people a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, I can do that. My name is Tami Jean. My friends call me TJ or Tammy. I answer to either. I am a self-love coach, as you said. I am tarot, Reiki, and astrology certified. I also create jewelry with healing crystals. It is not just jewelry. I do shows, I sell jewelry, and the crystals are intended and made with intent to help heal people. It is one of the tools in my what I do. I help women who have suffered verbal abuse to find their self-worth through tools and techniques I've learned on my own healing journey. My company is called Mending Hearts Healing, and my Facebook group is Mending Hearts with Self-Love.
Great. That's awesome. So I think that verbal abuse is something that doesn't get talked about very much. I know that I had a real self-esteem issue because of verbal abuse when I was younger. Um, I had a partner who, I just was never as smart as him, and you know,
Mhm.
even he laughed at things I said, and not in a funny way.
Yeah.
He just really kind of tried to put me down at every turn. Is that what you're talking about with verbal abuse, or is it different than that?
I am, and there's a couple of different aspects ways I look at it, things that I have learned on my journey. I got into a relationship when I was 16 and a half years old with a narcissistic sociopath who put me down. I hadn't found myself yet in general. So,
Right. 16. Who does,
besides
right?
my parents' mistakes, here I was looking for love in all the wrong places. Found this person who I ended up having 3 children with and being married for 9 years. We were together for almost 19 years till I was 35 years old. I didn't understand I was being verbally abused.
Right. Yeah, it's
Um,
subtle, right?
and that's my main thing. I say people who get the crap beat out of them know they're getting the crap beat out of them, and I respect that they suffer verbal abuse too. And I absolutely, there's too many people out there being verbally abused, manipulated, gaslighted, made to feel stupid or less than by somebody that's supposed to love them, and they don't get it. I remember one day, I was probably 10 years into this, and I knew it wasn't good, and people tried to help me get out of it. But I remember I was stepping into the shower and I went, oh my gosh, I'm being manipulated. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I had some aha moments throughout with that, and I'd pull my head out of the sand every once in a while and go, what am I doing?
Right.
But what through this journey I've also learned is what I like to talk about is unintentional abuse. I don't know if that's a real thing. It's something maybe I've made up, but our parents all screwed us up. I screwed
Ev-
my kids up. They'll tell you,
yes. Every
and,
parent
and
does it. Yeah.
but unfortunately we carry these through our adult lives, and we carry them in our gut. We carry them in our body. And these are the things I learned. I went to a trauma therapist and I said, oh no, my childhood was perfect. Well, guess what? I love my parents, but it was not perfect. We were the Cleavers. Everything was perfect. Everything was wonderful. Well, guess what? I
Yeah.
didn't know how to be myself, and I had no self-worth or self-esteem to stand up
Hmm.
for myself, and ended up in a verbally abusive marriage. It's not their fault, but
Right.
it
Right.
adds to it. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're kind of lucky that you figured out that your relationship was abusive, because sometimes verbal abuse, you start to believe it over time,
Oh,
right?
sure.
It's
Yeah.
like repeated little slights and dings and stuff. It's so how are you, tell me how you help others. First of all, um, do they find you? Do they like self-identify, or are they referred to you, or how does that work?
So two things I want to say. Number one is I had learned from my trauma therapist about what's called CPTSD. Now, I'm not diagnosing people, but I learned about the difference between PTSD, which is from an immediate, you know, bombing or shooting or car accident.
Something obvious, right?
CPSD is complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and a lot of people who are abused suffer that because every day for years, most of the time. So that
Yeah.
I want to clarify that. I think that's important for people to understand. The other thing is that I have been doing nails. I'm a manicurist, nail technician of almost 30 years now. I'm pretty much retired from that, though I do some friends and family on the side. But I have had the blessing of sitting across and holding the hands of women for almost 30 years now.
Oh, I love that. I love
And
that
that is
image, holding the hands of women for 30 years. Yeah.
that is, you know, and I have hairdresser friends, obviously, you know, and sitting and doing someone's hair, you know, you tell your hairdresser everything. Well, imagine sitting one-on-one across from somebody, literally holding their hands, sharing energy for at least an hour every couple of weeks. You know, I heard things that I heard the phrase, I don't even tell my therapist that, you know. So, you know, you really learn to understand and see what women are going through and what they tolerate. And it's heartbreaking once you've gotten through it and have gotten to a point where you've healed a lot of your trauma. I'm not completely healed. I don't know that I ever will be. I hope
Right.
it does, but I don't think this PTSD ever goes away.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like, I'm a fear expert. I talk about fear and courage and building, creating the life you want by moving through your fear. And it's like you said, your CPSD may never go away. Fear never goes away either.
Right.
It's just something that you learn to have a different relationship with.
It's coping skills.
Yes.
It's coping skills. Yeah. And that's what I teach. I have a program, I call it heart activation, because one of the things that I learned on my journey was that a lot of us, if you ask someone, do you let people love you? And they say, well, of course I do.
Right.
But do you? Do you
Yeah.
really let people love you? Do you or us, especially as women? No, I got it. No, I can do it. No, I don't need help. People, especially men, try to love us and we don't really let them, and criticize them at every turn for the way they're doing it wrong or whatever. Whoa.
Oops.
That
was exciting. This is live, everybody.
But I learned about heart activation and how important it is for us to heal our energy field, our chakras. If anyone understands that, it's our energy field, our heart chakra, especially when we've been abused or traumatized, unintentionally, we close that heart chakra. We don't let people in, and I went through a couple of relationships with men who were completely closed off and would not let me in. And I learned that I was not letting people love me either, and the moment
I have some of those experiences as well.
Yeah. And the moment I learned that and learned to open my heart and learn to love myself and allow myself to even love myself, which is huge, because how often do we have that negative language in our own heads, putting ourselves down? But learning to open that heart, balance your heart chakra, allow people to love you, allow yourself to love yourself, is when the skies opened up and the planets aligned and the love of my life fell in my lap.
Wow. Isn't that a great story?
Right. And I've been abused my whole life by men, or treated poorly, or not treated like the queen I am, like the queen we all are. And I finally allowed a man to love me, who was kind and sweet and gentle and truly treasured who I was. 10 years ago, I would have been like, oh, you need to go away. You're too nice.
I think sometimes we're the same person, because, I've been married now to the love of my life for 24 years. And I'm still astounded some days at how he cares for me and how he knows how to care for me, and how, I'm just so grateful for it,
But you have to let him, right? You have to let him.
Yes. You have to let him. Yeah.
Ladies, let him open the car door. Let him do the dishes. Don't criticize how he does laundry. These men want to love us and want to do for us. And so many men, especially in our age group, are jaded by women who don't let them be men and do what they do, and appreciate that.
And it's funny you talk about closing your heart off. My good friend Donna Spiracco met her. She talks about people who have a sign over their head, like you can't see it, of course, but it says
Right.
closed or
Yeah. Oh,
no.
yeah.
It's
Closed.
just like,
Right.
you're walking around
Closed
like,
off. Yeah. And
yeah.
that's what it is. Yeah, we shut our hearts off because we're so tired of being hurt. I was done. I'm telling you, I was absolutely done. I
Mhm.
would be happy to live by myself the rest of my life until I took that time by myself and healed myself and
Yes. And
allowed
so,
the love into my life.
now you're wanting to help others heal.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
my mission is to help women to bring awareness to verbal abuse,
Mm.
to teach young women the red flags and what to look for. It's not okay that he doesn't like your friends or doesn't want you to go hang out with your family, or there's these little signs that start happening, but he's so nice to
Mm.
you, and you know it's the start of the control, and then they just slowly tweak you in. And I was in that for 19 years.
Yeah.
And then 6 years later, a second marriage in, when I was still suffering and I was on anxiety and depression medication and going to a trauma therapist, I realized I found an article that talked about a sociopath and what that does to somebody. Living with a sociopath for up to 2 weeks
Oh my.
can cause severe damage.
Oh golly.
And I
Yeah.
realized that I hadn't taken the time to heal, to get the help I needed. And
Right.
I went to a therapist and did the drugs and the medication, et cetera. Not drugs, legal, sorry.
Meds. Yeah.
Medication, anxiety, depression,
Yeah.
drank too much, just trying to get through and cope. But there's other ways, and I learned,
Yeah.
things started coming to me, and I think it was meant to come to me, to learn
Yeah.
about crystals and their healing properties. And then I learned about tarot and how a teacher was dropped into my lap to teach me tarot and Reiki. And I just started learning how these tools were helping me and giving me insight.
Giving you insight. Yeah. And
The,
that's,
the tarot, the tarot gets a bad rap, unfortunately, a lot of times, but I think it's becoming more aware. These are tools that God or the divine or whatever you want to call it has given us on this earth so that our spirit guides and angels can talk to us. And
yeah.
that's what I use tarot for.
And I love that, because I was very skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started my entrepreneur journey, I was kind of closed off to certain um, modalities or therapies
Mm-hmm.
until I really needed them. Like I needed to push beyond my self-worth issues and that sort of thing to realize I had a voice, I had something to say, I have something to teach.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found was, my friend Bex Beltran did a tarot reading for me, and it was just kind of spot on. Like, these are the things I need to think about today. So it's
Right.
not like this is going to predict the future or anything like
No.
that. It's, here's some insights.
Right.
Think about how this may be applying to your life. And
And
is there something you need to change?
correct. And I had somebody say to me, well, when I get a tarot reading, it never comes true or whatever. I said, it's not a
It's
prediction.
not about
What it
that.
is,
Yeah.
it's a tool to give you insight into your current situation. And once you have that awareness and information, guess what? You're taking a different road. And
Yeah,
so it
because it
may
works
not
silently
come true,
inside.
right? Because it's giving you that awareness and insight to, oh, okay, maybe this needs to change, or my perspective needs to change a little bit. And that's another thing I've learned too. Perspective and our reality and our stories and our truth, they're each unique. And that's a
They
really
certainly
important
are.
tool as well in the tool, like my tool shed, I call it.
Yep, yep. And my good friend Tani Acosta is watching, and I just
I see
put up
her.
her
Hi, Tony.
comment. I'm a fan of all these modes. Yeah. They're just, yeah, they can be incredibly insightful if you allow them to teach you
Mm-hmm.
something. So
Right.
I really appreciate that. And I think that, getting out to young women, especially, I think is really important, because if you can change those patterns of acceptance of less than optimal behavior, who has that all the time, but
Oh, yeah.
less than acceptable behavior from someone who claims to love you. I think that will change the course of a lot of lives. I'm really inspired by a lot of the there are a lot of women in music that are giving out messages of self-love. They're giving out empowerment and that sort of thing, so much more so than when I was, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 63, so when I was young, and I love listening to that music, and I love that when I hear young women say those lyrics,
Mm-hmm.
out loud, just off the cuff, as a response to something, I'm like, yeah, That's right. The more you say that to yourself, even if you don't quite believe it, the more you say
Yeah.
it to yourself, the more you
Right.
will.
Well, it's the law of attraction. And, and what I'm seeing and what I believe I'm a part of is there are a lot of people becoming aware and being enlightened and being given the light to share. And, songwriters are writing songs, we're all doing our little part, but I believe God is giving us this opportunity to come in and share and find the truth. We're going through an evolution and a change in our society with
Yep,
this.
we
And a
are.
lot more people are coming to this realization that, they're a part of a big movement that's bringing a lot of light to this world.
Yeah, yeah, it's great, and I thank you for being part of that. TJ is, as we said, a self-love coach. You can see it in her label there, and I'm so glad that you could be here on Defying Expectations today. Everybody, if you're watching the replay, put a hashtag replay. This is going live out to LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you're watching live, great, but you can watch it later. And I'm so glad you're here. Defying Expectations starting today is going to, I'm changing the orientation. It's going to be Defying Expectations over 60. And yeah, so TJ is not over 60. I will still have special guests who are under 60. And I'm so glad you were here today. Everybody, if you want to learn more, we're going to have TJ's contact information in the comments on each of those platforms. And of course, if you want to talk to me about how to create the life that you want, you can find me through LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, any of those things. So thank you, TJ. Any one last thing that you want to say to our listeners before we sign off?
The first thing I want to say is thank you for letting me in under the wire. I'm older than I look, so I will contact you in 11 years and we'll talk again.
I hope I'm still doing this in my 70s. Yes,
Right. Yeah. Let's hope
absolutely.
not. Yeah. But yeah, the self-love coach title, I just want to say how difficult that was for me because I feel that the self-love title is so cliche and so overused, but I learned how important it was for us to love ourselves. And that is such a key factor in all of this. So I just wanted to clarify that. To me, it just looks so cliche, but it's what I am, and that's what I do, and I teach people to learn to love themselves. So I appreciate you having me on. I'm very grateful for what you're doing and for the opportunity to do what I do and to share. So thank you.
My pleasure. I'm glad we know each other. Okay, that's Defying Expectations signing off. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.